Hey everyone, it's Patrick, and it has been quite a while since I've uploaded a video. As usual, I feel like on this channel I have to go a minimum of like 3 or 4 months before I upload another YouTube video, unfortunately. Hopefully in the future I can become a bit more consistent with my content, but I think part of the reason for that is that I just have struggled ever since I've made this channel with what type of content I'm most comfortable with and enjoy the most, right? And the conclusion that I've come to, which is also what this video is gonna be, is that stream of consciousness type content is more so my thing. That's the kind of content I make on TikTok slash Instagram primarily. Maybe I do skits more actually. I don't know that just talking is the primary type of content, but it is a significant part of my channels, I guess, on other platforms. So maybe that's the move for YouTube too. This is gonna be just a stream of consciousness video slash a Q&A video. So there's some variety there, I guess. So let's just go ahead and get started with the Q&A. I asked my followers on Instagram months ago to just send me some questions, and so we're gonna answer some of those now. And I'm gonna try to find like interesting ones. I don't want to just I'm not gonna do every single question that I've been asked because there's lots of questions I got. And I'll try to avoid like the more generic ones that you could easily find like online if you go to my pages and stuff. So let's see. Okay, well here's one. No. Okay, well I just said I'm not gonna do generic ones, but this question I get asked more than any other type of question on all my platforms, and that's, what is the process like for getting an English teaching job in Japan? And with this one, I've answered so many times on all those platforms again, but basically, if you want to teach English abroad, specifically in Japan, usually you'll have to have a degree, a college degree. Usually it's a bachelor's degree, a 4-year degree, but sometimes like 2-year degrees are accepted as well to certain schools. But you'll need a degree, and that will allow the schools to sponsor you for a visa, so that you can come into the country and work here. It doesn't usually matter what you study, as long as you have a degree, then they will be able to sponsor you for a visa. And so, yeah. And this isn't the case like 100% across the board. Like some people have messaged me saying they've gotten teaching jobs here without a degree. I think it just depends, but usually you'll need that. So, and also you'll need to be able to speak English. You don't usually have to be a native English speaker, but if you are a native English speaker, it ups your chances. But if you can speak English, then that's something that schools look for because you're going to be teaching English. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's see. Have you been to Hokkaido? What did you think of it? I have been to Hokkaido before. I went there in 2019? I think it was 2019, yeah. It was actually when I first started doing my TikTok content. But I went to Sapporo, which is the capital of the city, and it was nice. I really enjoyed it there. I went during, I think it was October, so it wasn't super cold. Hokkaido is known for being like, it's up north, so it's pretty cold in the wintertime, and they have like a big ice festival that's really well known. I don't like cold weather, so I went when it was still kind of warm, and it was really nice. I liked it there. How do you overcome being nervous when speaking a foreign language? I don't know that I am ever not nervous when speaking a foreign language. I will say this, I used to teach English in China, and I spoke a bit of Chinese as a result. I learned Chinese over the 3 years I was there, some Chinese. And so I was able to have conversations with people. And I would say I felt more confident speaking Chinese than I do speaking Japanese, even though I've been here for almost 8 years. And I think the reason for that is because the people in China, Chinese people are more outgoing and aggressive when it comes to learning languages, and Japanese people tend to not be so aggressive and are more, just reserved and shy. And so I kind of felt that energy myself. I kind of unconsciously took that on and wanted to just try more to speak the language and be more, intentional with my usage of Chinese and learning Chinese. So I didn't struggle too much. Sometimes, I would mess up things sometimes and would, get flustered and whatnot, because you're learning a language. It just happens naturally, right? So I would say with Japanese, where I do get flustered and nervous more often, it's just one of those things you have to just do. I don't really know if there's a formula for it, like getting over that nervousness. You just have to do it. I think the more you do it, the less nervous you'll feel. But yeah, I still get very nervous to speak Japanese. It depends on the situation. If I'm in like a bank or like a post office and there's a line of people and I get to the front and then I have to talk to the staff in Japanese, I will be very nervous because everyone's like listening in, and you're potentially going to be holding up a line behind you, and it's a whole thing. But if I'm just talking with like someone I met and I get the chance to practice my Japanese with them, then that will be not so nerve-wracking. It's just practice. I don't know. I don't have a particular method to get over nervousness, but it's just it depends on the person, and I think it's just gonna happen no matter what you do. You just have to embrace it and just go with it, go with the flow. What is it like generally living in Japan? I really like living in Japan. I think it's great. It's a very beautiful country. The people are really kind here. It's very convenient. I live in Tokyo, so that is one thing that makes my experience, I think, a bit different from people who live in like the Inaka or the countryside areas. Tokyo's known for being more like technologically advanced than a lot of places in the world. So that's really helpful. But I wouldn't even say it's like I'm living in like some futuristic type of place. Like, it's still just a city with people. But there is English everywhere. That's the upside to living in a central location like Tokyo. There's lots of English everywhere. So I'm able to access things pretty easily, and I don't have a ton of issues getting around or, maneuvering through the city. It's just very convenient. So yeah, I like living here in Tokyo. I used to live in Sendai before, which is a city up north a bit, which is slightly countryside. It's pretty countryside, but the area in Sendai I lived in was not on the countryside. It was pretty normal, I guess. I don't know. It was nice. I liked it there. I like it here. I like Japan. It's nice. I don't deal with lots of racism, at least like blatant racism. That's one of the things that people are very concerned about from what I've seen online. Like, my followers will often ask questions about whether or not Japan is safe for Black people or just POC in general, like POC other than Japanese POC. And I feel like there are concerns for sure being a person of color, especially for like women. Women do have to deal with more, unfortunately, than men do, like everywhere in the world pretty much. But I would say generally, compared to the US, the types of racism that you experience here, they're never gonna be large, blatant, violent acts of racism. Very, very rarely do things like that happen here. And you're never gonna get killed here for being Black. As opposed to the US, where, you Can't guarantee that. So yeah, the quality of life is great here. It is a bit expensive, especially in Tokyo again, but you know, you get jobs in the city that will allow you to live off of them. So yeah, it's fine. I like living in Tokyo. I like living in Japan, Tokyo specifically. What is your favorite ice cream to get in Japan? This is kind of a boring question, actually. Yeah. What do the kids' parents think of you? Do they have a similar reaction? So if you don't know, I teach English here in Japan. I teach primarily 5-year-olds, like kindergarten level students, but I also teach elementary age as well. And the kids' parents usually are pretty fond of me, I think. I don't really have a ton of communication with the kids' parents because they often don't speak English very well. Those that do will, you know, approach us and tell us things or ask us questions and stuff, but the majority of the kids' parents don't really speak a whole lot of English. And I don't speak good enough Japanese to be able to have a conversation with them about their kids. That's another thing. You don't have to know Japanese in order to teach here, which, you know, I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing, but it is what it is. You don't have to speak Japanese. I do think you should be actively trying to learn Japanese if you're going to be moving here or if you are living here, but it's not a requirement. So I'm not fluent in the language and I don't have the opportunity to talk to a lot of the kids' parents in Japanese. But I think the parents, I've never really had any major complaints from parents. I think they're fine with me as their kids' teacher. I think initially they are kind of surprised that I'm black because a lot of English teachers here are white. So that I think is a bit shocking to the parents sometimes, but I've never heard of parents being like upset that I'm their kid's teacher as a black man. Like I don't think it really matters to them too much. So yeah, I think the parents are cool with me. What do you love about living in Japan and what do you hate or dislike the most? I think one of the things I like the most is how kind the people are here. And this is something that, so two things regarding that. There's tatemae, which is like the sort of face that you put on when you're interacting with people. You know, Japanese people, when they are in public, they feel they have to act a certain way, you know, have a certain level of respect they show towards others and kindness they show and things like that. It's good. It's really nice. I appreciate that. And then there's honne, which is how a person really feels, like their true feelings. And, you know, those feelings aren't always going to be happy and, you know, nice and kind and things like that because people are people, right? And so when you go out shopping or you go to a restaurant, and if you're interacting with someone, they're going to have that tatemae showing, usually. Old people kind of, you know, you never know what you're gonna get. And of course, like little children, kids are gonna do what they do. But most people will be really, really kind to you. As a foreigner, they'll be really nice to you. And so because of that, even though it seems like, you know, Japan is a very nice country, people are really kind here, I know that's not like their true feelings all the time. And that's fine, I understand that. Again, no one is just nice 100% of the time. But, you know, sometimes people think, oh, if you tell them, I like Japan because the people are so nice, they're like, you know, it's not real, right? And it's like, yes, I know, but I still appreciate the customer service here is like unmatched. People are so kind in restaurants, in supermarkets, at amusement parks. Like any type of customer service type job, people will treat you really, really nicely. Usually. There are always exceptions, but usually. And another thing I like about Japan is the bath culture. I love the public baths. The natural hot springs are called onsen. The man-made ones are called sento, and they're just great. I just love going to baths and just relaxing and chilling in them. It's a good time. And so I think those, well, okay, the next thing, which would maybe be an obvious thing, my students. I love my students and I love spending time with them, and they're the reason I stayed in Japan for so long and will continue to for a while, if not the rest of my life. I really enjoy teaching the kids here. Yeah. Next, as a fellow expat, what general advice can you give me? If you're an expat in Japan and you need some advice, it depends on what kind of advice you need. I guess maybe you're kind of struggling with just life in Japan, life in a foreign country. Try new things. I think experiencing as much as you can in a foreign country is kind of important, because how many people have the opportunity to live abroad? Like, it's a privilege. It's a really big privilege that we have, and I think it's something that we should not take lightly. So if you have the chance to live in a foreign country and explore different facets of the culture and visit different places in the country, do it. That might help to shape a bit of your perspective on whether or not it's, a good experience or a bad experience. I hope that's helpful. What was your biggest culture shock? Biggest culture shock was definitely how reserved the people here are. It's kind of difficult to make friends, to make good friends here in Japan with the locals, because they just they're not as open. And that's not a bad thing necessarily. I don't think it's bad, but it's just different than what I was used to. It's different than American culture. My home country is the US. It's also different than China, which is where I had lived prior to moving to Japan, where the people are so outgoing. I was kind of expecting that kind of culture here, and it's not the same. Could you speak some more Japanese? People always want me to speak Japanese. Konnichiwa, Patoriku desu. Ima, natsuyasumi desu. 今日の天気はめっちゃ暑い。気をつけて。気をつけて。気をつけて。I do know this word. I just was second guessing myself on the pronunciation, and I want to embarrass myself on YouTube, so I had to check and make sure. 気をつけて. All right, moving on. How many classes do you teach? Currently, I teach 5 classes. I teach 3 kindergarten classes in the morning, and then I teach 2 elementary classes in the afternoon. So it's 3 K5 classes and then 6 classes. I teach 3 elementary classes. It's kind of difficult. It's okay. I teach 3 age groups: kindergarten, 3rd grade, 6th grade. But I teach 6 different classes within those age groups. I have 3 kindergarten classes, 2 3rd grade classes, 1 6th grade class. When you first moved, did you miss home? Yes. Not in Japan. When I moved to China, I missed home. But when I moved to Japan, it had already been 3 years that I was out of the country. So by the time I moved here, I was used to living abroad. So I didn't really miss home. I miss American food a lot, but I also live in Tokyo, where there's access to lots of foreign foods. So what's your favorite thing to do in your spare time? Well, when I'm not making content for TikTok and Instagram, or YouTube, usually I'm watching YouTube or Netflix or playing Splatoon 2, because I'm obsessed with Splatoon. The new Splatoon 3 game is coming out very soon, like next month, which I'm very excited about. So, camera died. If you didn't become a teacher, what would you have been instead? So I studied communication in college, and it was specifically in like electronic media. So it was like video, radio, web design, animation type of stuff, that kind of communication. But I wasn't good at any of it. I was horrible, actually. So I remember thinking during my junior and senior year of college, if I could have done it over, I would have either gone into psychology or social work. So I may have gone either of those routes. I've always also wanted to be an actor, but just never acted on that, I guess. Get it? What is YouTube? This. How has your relationship with family and friends changed since moving to Japan? With my family, it's changed in that I just talk to them less. I guess for both family and friends, I talk to them less. I currently talk with my family maybe once, I would say a few times a month. For a while it was every week, but lately it's been like twice a month maybe, which is fine with me. Again, I don't feel like super attached to things back home. I don't really miss my family a ton because I'm so used to living abroad, but a lot of people go like months and months without talking to their families. I don't think I could go that long. With friends, it's a little more difficult because I feel like when you move abroad, you and your friends back home have different paths that you're taking, and you know, people get married, they have kids and families, and you know, you get kind of just caught up in your own life. They get caught up in theirs, you get caught up in yours, and so you're just not in touch as much. So most of my friends back home I don't really talk to very much. Not because we had some kind of falling out, but we just don't really talk. But it's okay because you make new friends, and like they'll always be my friends. Like we can always catch up if the opportunity presents itself, or I suppose if we take that opportunity, because we easily can with social media being what it is. But yeah, it just is what it is. It is what it is. Dansu shimashou. So this is meaning like let's dance. All right, let's dance. The end. Immortality or uncontrollable thought reading powers. I think I would go with uncontrollable thought reading powers, because the idea of everyone around me dying and leaving me here alone would, I mean, that sounds horrible. That sounds absolutely terrible. I mean, uncontrollable thought reading powers is also kind of terrible, but at least I'll die one day. Yeah, I would choose the thought reading powers. Who is your favorite superhero? I love Marvel, and I have to say Black Panther. Like, the trailer for Black Panther 2 just came out a few weeks ago, and it was so special. It was such a good trailer. Very like emotional, very much like so many feelings, so many thoughts and emotions. So yeah, Black Panther. I'm not gonna answer this, but I have to say there are so many questions about what dating is like in Japan. That is my business and my business alone. Will you ever get tired of living in Japan? I might. I don't know. Right now I don't feel tired of it, and it's been almost 8 years. That's not to say it won't happen, but I feel okay with it. I enjoy living here. And if I do get tired, then I will probably move back. Or go somewhere else, I guess. At this point, probably move back. I probably wouldn't move to a different country. I'd probably just move back home. Is it hard to find a church in Japan? Many of you know I'm a Christian, so I would say it's not, I mean, it depends on where you live. It really just depends on where you're at. For me, being in Tokyo, it's not difficult. There's a number of churches that I've been able to attend and check out. When I was in Sendai, there were churches available. The problem is a lot of churches are only in Japanese. But I would say, again, in Tokyo, not so much. You can find bilingual services to go to, but in Sendai, it wasn't as easy to find that. But yeah, if you're like in a really, really countryside type area, it might be difficult. But here, where I'm at, no, it's not difficult. Favorite vegetable? I don't know. What's my favorite vegetable? Maybe, okay, I think it's maybe onions. I don't know if most people choose onions as their favorite, but I really enjoy, now that I've been making my own meals with HelloFresh Japan, which is not, they don't sponsor this video. I'm just saying. I've been cutting up a lot more vegetables these days, and onions are my favorite ones to cut and favorite ones to have in just the meals in general. I like onions, I've discovered. Are you late to places when you get on the wrong train and stuff? Yes. Unfortunately, I am very directionally challenged, so I'm often getting on the wrong train, the wrong bus, missing trains or buses, and I do end up late to places sometimes. It's a sad life. It's a very sad life. I don't wish it upon anybody. How do you always get lost, even when looking at directions, etc.? On average, how often do you get lost? Okay, you know, I don't know how it happens. It just does. I can't remember things. I try really hard to remember. I'm like, okay, I just looked at Google Map and it just said to go to, I'll like test myself, like, okay, it said go to this platform, the train leaves at this time, okay, and it's this line, okay, remember that. I get there and I'm like, what? I forget all the information, so I have to look again. And then it will have changed or something in the meantime, and I'm like, oh no, it's where is it? And I have to search for the line and the platform, and then I'm missing the train. Next thing I know, it just happens. On average, how often? Lately, it hasn't been happening as much. It did just happen yesterday though. So worst moment as a teacher. I would say the worst moments are when you feel like you failed at your job that day or whatever. When you go home and you're like, oh man, class today was not good. Either because kids were bored and were messing around because they were bored, which is, you know, your fault because you didn't make the lesson interesting enough for them, captivating enough, or to a degree. Or, you know, you didn't plan things out well enough and your activity that you had planned just completely went wrong. And it's something that, like, you shouldn't be so hard on yourself in those moments, but it's hard not to. So I would say those moments are maybe the worst. When you feel like, oh man, what am I doing in this profession? Like, I'm a horrible teacher. Stuff like that. Plans for the future. I plan to be in Japan for at least 3 or 4 more years at this point. I was planning to move back to the US after that, but I don't know anymore if that's what will happen. I don't know. I'm just taking it a year at a time. We'll see what happens. What would you say to someone who's too afraid to chase their dreams and reach their goals? I mean, my instinct is to say, like, don't be afraid, just do it. But that, like, what kind of realistic advice is that? Like, it's like saying, don't be depressed, get over it. Like, you can't, you know. But I guess you have to, at some point, you really do have to just conquer your fears. I don't have like a formula for how to do that, but taking a step in the direction you want to go, as scary as it might seem, you're gonna look at it at the end of the day, on the other side of things, you're gonna look at it and be so glad you took that first step. Even though you will likely encounter tons of obstacles along the way, taking that leap forward and starting to carve out a path for yourself to achieve your dream or your goals, it's just something you gotta do. I don't know how to, I'm sorry, I don't really know how to say do it. I don't know how to break it down, but maybe like plan out, like maybe write down benefits of achieving that. Like what will happen? What are the positives of taking a step forward and taking on that challenge? And then write out the negatives, the pros and the cons. And I guarantee you the pros will outweigh the cons. And hopefully that will be enough motivation to do it. And our last question for today, what's the most rewarding thing about being an English teacher in Japan? Easy, it's the kids. The kids are the best. I love my job so much. I love teaching the kids. I do get tired and exhausted, and some days I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm too old for this, but it's so much fun. Like I get energy from the kids. Even if I'm like exhausted before class, once the kids come in and I'm interacting with them, it's just like, bam, energy. I love the kids I teach, and having relationships that I can build and being able to build into them is priceless. It's my favorite part of this job, so yeah. And with that, I'm gonna end this video. It wasn't so much a just talk kind of video. I think there was a lot of editing that took place, so I'm sorry, future Patrick. I hope you enjoyed the Q&A, and I think I say this almost every time. I will really try to be more consistent with my uploads. It's summertime now, I'm on summer break, so hopefully I'll be able to, you know, crank these out. But anyways, thank you for watching. Comment down below if you have questions or ideas for what you'd like me to film or talk about in the future. And yeah, please like and subscribe. And of course, have a nice day or night wherever you are in the world, and I will see you in the next one.